My name is Jeff Rubin. I'm the author of Wisdom of Age and an advocate for positive aging. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been discriminated against because of your age? Do you know someone who has? Unfortunately, this is what's happening to millions of Americans every single day. Their thoughts, ideas, suggestions, and opinions are being ignored, devalued, or never asked for, simply because those who have them are considered either too young or, worse yet, too old. There's a name for this type of discrimination. It's called ageism. More prevalent than racism or sexism, ageism takes place at home, in the workplace, and in literally every community across America. So rampant, in fact, it is considered the #1 issue facing older adults today. This is true both here in the US and in virtually every other country around the world. So why is this so important? Let me offer you some perspective. There are currently 55 million Americans 65 years of age or older. By 2030, in 10 short years, that figure will jump to 70 million. Global trends are equally as dramatic. According to the United Nations, the number of people 65 or older is growing faster than all other age groups. In fact, for the first time in our history, those over 65 now outnumber children under 5 as a percentage of global population. By all accounts, population aging is poised to become one of the most significant social transformations of the 21st century. Yet rather than prepare for this, too many civic and community leaders and individuals like ourselves are ignoring the consequences of inaction. The shift in demographics is increasingly being felt in nearly every sector of our society. Employment, housing, health, safety, social inclusion and isolation, the demand for goods and services, as well as family and intergenerational ties. Denial is not an option. As recently as 2015, a New York Times editorial said, older people are likely to be seen as a burden and a drain on resources rather than as a resource by themselves. Imagine that. Fortunately, organizations like the World Health Organization and AARP, among others, see a much different future. One in which older people are increasingly seen as contributors to development and where their abilities to act for the betterment of themselves and their societies are woven into policies and programs at all levels. Such a shift in thinking is the difference between age discrimination and age acceptance, a movement from age denial to age friendly, a movement that is being embraced by more and more communities around the world. Instead of denying the power of aging, they see it as a vanguard of new opportunities. Changing the mindset of ageism, however, begins with us as individuals. It starts with the little things we say and do. These are just some of the reasons why I wrote Wisdom of Age. More than a book, Wisdom of Age is also a movement dedicated to changing the culture of ageism and the misperception that one number or any number should define an individual's value and self-worth. Instead of decline and exclusion, we see age as a continuum of inclusion where each generation is respected, valued, and appreciated for their unique insights, experience, wisdom, and ability to contribute to the greater good. In a culture that respects age, adequate protection, security, and care are available when needed, and people who retire from work, are ill, or live with disabilities can remain active contributors to their families, peers, communities, and nations. Let me give you an example with a few brief slides. Andy Rooney had the right idea. The idea of living a long life appeals to everyone, but the idea of getting old doesn't appeal to anyone. People are being seen as old earlier and earlier. It's all a matter of perspective. Just because they're in their 20s or older than you does not mean they are old. Carly, age 12, said that. Think about it. So a 12-year-old, 20 is old. So a 20-year-old, 40 is old, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all very relative. However you choose to look at aging, however, the numbers don't lie. There are 78 million aging baby boomers. 85 plus is the fastest growing age group. A third of us are caregivers, and yet $200 billion is spent on anti-aging products. It's called ageism, and it impacts employment, our physical and mental health, how we feel about ourselves, our relevance, our self-worth, our self-esteem, how we treat others. It shows up in abuse, neglect, fraud, and it impacts our economic and financial opportunities. It's a paradox of age. Next slide. And yet, the longer we live, the longer we contribute to what's being called the longevity economy. Let's face it, we know that older adults are vital assets to communities and community development. They contribute experience, their leadership, and often economic participation. The World Health Organization had it right. Societies that adapt to the changing demographics can reap a sizable longevity dividend. It's a question of acknowledgement. It's a question of accepting the fact and embracing it. Next slide. We're emerging as an economic force. $7.1 trillion is spent annually by people 50 and older. And by 2032, that figure will grow to $13.5 trillion. Significant impact on the economy. And as Joe Coughlin, director of the MIT Age Lab, said, it's not so much a question of which industries are likely to benefit from the longevity boom. It's harder to identify those that won't. Next slide. BMW, for example, has refitted their plants to accommodate the needs of older workers. They are in the forefront of ergonomic design, and their employees are not skipping a beat in terms of putting out a quality automobile. Next slide. Technology is impacting every aspect of our lives, from smart homes to technology in terms of medicine and design. And these are just a few examples coming up. Next. Automobiles that are smarter than us. They drive themselves, they park themselves, and take you where you want to go. There's a remote monitoring, particularly helpful at a time of coronavirus. Heart monitoring. Stethoscopes that plug into your computer. Multi-sensory rooms for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And if anyone would like more detail on this, you can contact me later. It's a fascinating program. Next. Touchscreen computers and touchscreen solitaire. And who would have thought of robotic pets? No vet bills, no feeding, and no need for pooper scoopers. What a great gift. Next slide. Feeding machines This was developed in the Scandinavian countries for people who can't feed themselves. Incredibly powerful tool to give people back a degree of independence. Imagine the freedom that this can bring to thousands of people who otherwise need assistance or have difficulty in being in public. Next slide. Technology that helps people who with low vision to regain their sight. Next slide. Creating virtual smell to stimulate memory. And how about using technology to simulate bike riding down your childhood lane or anywhere else you may remember experiencing bike ride growing up? Having a positive view of aging can impact your life in so many ways. One man who personified positive aging was my friend, Dr. Everett Schaefer. The inspiration for my book, this exceptional yet humble human being had a zest for life that defied and defined his years. Change agent long before the term was coined, he epitomized the difference that one human being and one person's life can make. He was representative, too, of every older person who believes that the elixir of life lies in how others may view one's advancing years and more in how we view ourselves. Next slide. Here's some original artwork you'll find in my book, along with humor. Next slide. Attitude. Next slide. And insight. Next slide. My book is the impetus for peer-to-peer and intergenerational communication, inclusion and collaboration, and the motivation for creating local wisdom circles. But no one does this alone. Your voice counts in disrupting the culture of ageism. And so I encourage you to join me, because real change begins with the power of one. Next. I encourage you to sign up for a newsletter. I encourage you to check out our website. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and I encourage you to call me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love you to join the movement. Thank you.